Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
I stared at the laptop screen, my jaw clenched. The GPS tracker blinked, showing Lydia's location at some trendy cafe downtown. It was 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. She was supposed to be at yoga. Damn it, Lydia, I muttered, rubbing my temples. I had suspected something was off for weeks, late-night classes, constant texting, and a growing emotional distance, but seeing concrete proof made my stomach churn. My phone buzzed. A text from Lydia, class running late, don't wait up. I almost laughed at the blatant lie. Instead, I grabbed my keys and headed out. Time to see what my darling wife was really up to. The cafe was dimly lit, trying too hard to be hip. I parked across the street and watched. There she was, sitting at an outdoor table, laughing, touching the arm of some guy I had never seen before. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm over there, confront them both, but no. I needed more information before making my move. I snapped a few photos with my phone, then drove home, my mind racing. Who was he? How long had this been going on? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? Back at our house, our obscenely large house that I had worked my fifth place off to afford, I poured myself a scotch and settled into my home office. Time to do some digging. It did not take long to find him online, Ethan Blackwood, 32, a local celebrity yoga instructor with a carefully curated Instagram full of shirtless photos and inspirational quotes. What a joke. I was still scrolling through his feed when I heard Lydia's key in the door. Showtime, I muttered. Adrian, she called out. You still up? I stepped out of the office, scotch in hand. Hey, hon, how was yoga? She faltered for just a second before regaining her composure. Oh, great. Really challenging class tonight. I bet, I said, keeping my tone neutral. You must be exhausted after all that exertion. Lydia's eyes narrowed slightly. What's that supposed to mean? I shrugged, taking a sip of scotch. Nothing. Just making conversation. She stared at me for a long moment, then seemed to relax. Well, I am beat. I'm going to grab a shower and head to bed. Sweet dreams, I said, watching her walk away. Once I heard the shower start, I returned to my research. I needed proof, real, solid proof that would hold up in court. Because make no mistake, there was no way in hell I was letting Lydia walk away with half of everything I built. The next morning, I made some calls and arranged a meeting with Frank Sulant, a private investigator who came highly recommended. We met at a nondescript diner, far from prying eyes. Frank was a grizzled man in his 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. So, Mr. Hawthorne, he said after I laid out the situation, you want proof of your wife's infidelity? That's right, I replied. Concrete evidence. Photos, video, whatever it takes. He nodded slowly. And what do you plan to do with this evidence once you have it? I met his gaze steadily. Whatever I have to do to protect myself and my assets. A ghost of a smile crossed Frank's face. Understood. I'll get started right away. But I should warn you, Mr. Hawthorne, sometimes these investigations turn up unexpected results. I hope you're prepared for whatever I might find. I'm prepared for anything, I said firmly. Just get me what I need. As I left the diner, my phone buzzed again. A text from my best friend and business partner, Victor, drinks tonight? I hesitated, then replied, sure. The usual spot at 8. I needed to talk to someone about all of this, and if there was anyone I could trust, it was Victor. We had been through too much together for me to doubt him now. The bar was crowded when I arrived, but I spotted Victor at our regular table in the back. He waved me over. 2 whiskeys were already waiting. You look like hell, he said as I sat down. I chuckled humorlessly. Feel like it too. I took a long sip of whiskey, savoring the burn. It's Lydia. Victor's expression turned serious. What's going on? I told him everything, my suspicions, following Lydia to the cafe, hiring the PI. He listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern. Jesus, Adrian, he said when I finished. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'm not letting her get away with this. I've worked too damn hard to let her and her boy toy take me for everything I'm worth. Victor nodded slowly. Just be careful, okay? Don't do anything rash. Maybe there's an explanation. An explanation? I cut him off, anger flaring. For what? Her lying to my face? Sneaking around behind my back? He held up his hands in surrender. I'm just saying, wait until you have all the facts before you make any big moves. You've got a lot to lose here, Adrian. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. You're right. I know. I can't believe she'd do this to me. After everything we've been through together. Victor reached across the table and clasped my shoulder. Whatever happens, I've got your back. You know that, right? I managed a small smile. Yeah. I know. Thanks, man. As I drove home that night, Victor's words echoed in my mind. Be careful. Don't do anything rash. But with each passing day, every lie Lydia told, I could feel my control slipping. Something had to give. And soon. The next week passed in a blur of suspicion and barely contained rage. I went through the motions at work, but my thoughts were consumed by Lydia and her betrayal. Frank sent regular updates, more yoga classes that were anything but clandestine meetings at out-of-the-way cafes and parks. Finally, he sent the message I had been waiting for. Got what you need. Meet me at the diner. I made an excuse to leave work early and raced to meet Frank. He was waiting in a corner booth, a thick manila envelope on the table in front of him. It's all here, he said without preamble as I sat down. Photos. Video. Phone records. Your wife's been having an affair with this Ethan guy for at least 3 months. I reached for the envelope with shaking hands, but Frank held it back. You sure you want to see this? He asked, his expression grave. Once you do, there's no going back. I met his eyes without hesitation. I'm sure. He nodded and handed it over. I opened it, steeling myself for what I was about to find. I was about to see the first photo when it hit me like a punch to the gut, Lydia and Ethan, locked in a passionate embrace outside some cheap motel. I flipped through the rest quickly, each image searing itself into my brain. Them laughing over dinner. Walking hand in hand through the park. Kissing in his car. There's video, too, Frank said quietly. But I'll leave it up to you if you want to watch that. I shook my head, shoving everything back into the envelope. This is enough. I pulled out my checkbook. Thank you for your work, Mr. Silent. I assume this covers everything? He glanced at the amount and nodded. More than enough. You sure you don't need anything else? No, I said, standing up. I've got what I need. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. Now that I had the proof, what was I going to do with it? Confront Lydia? Go straight to a divorce lawyer? I needed time to think, to plan my next move carefully. But as I pulled into our driveway and saw Lydia's car already there, something inside me snapped. All the hurt, the betrayal, the rage I had been bottling up came rushing to the surface. To hell with careful planning. It was time for a reckoning. I stormed into the house and found Lydia in the kitchen, casually chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up with a smile that quickly faded when she saw my face. Adrian, what's wrong? I laughed bitterly. What's wrong? Why don't you tell me, Lydia? How was yoga tonight? She paled slightly but kept her composure. It was fine. Why are you? Cut the crap, I snarled, slamming the envelope onto the counter. I know everything. About Ethan. About all of it. Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed. You've been spying on me? Damn right I have, I shot back. And it's a good thing I did. Otherwise, I'd still be in the dark about my wife screwing her yoga instructor behind my back. It's not like that, she protested, her voice rising. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I cut her off. While I've been working my 5th place off to give us this life, You've been throwing it all away for some narcissistic pretty boy. Her expression hardened. Maybe if you paid half as much attention to me as you do to your precious company, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. I reeled back as if she had slapped me. So it's my fault now? You're blaming me for your decision to cheat? I'm not blaming you, she said, her tone softening. I'm just saying, we've been drifting apart for a long time, Adrian. Ethan, he makes me feel alive again. I shook my head in disgust. Spare me the justifications. I don't want to hear it. I want you out of this house, tonight. Her eyes widened in panic. Adrian, no. We can work this out. We can go to counseling, try to. There's nothing to work out, I said coldly. We're done. I'll have divorce papers drawn up in the morning. You can't just throw me out, she protested. This is my home too. I have rights. I laughed humorlessly. Rights? You lost those the moment you decided to cheat. You want rights? Talk to my lawyer. I turned to walk away, but she grabbed my arm. Adrian, please. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I love you. I jerked away from her touch. Don't you dare say you love me. If you loved me, you never would have done this. Tears welled up in her eyes. What about everything we built together? Are you really willing to throw it all away? I stared at her for a long moment, seeing not the woman I had loved for years, but a stranger. A liar. A cheat. You threw it away, I said quietly. Not me. Now get out. I walked away, ignoring her pleas and protests. I locked myself in my office and listened as she moved through the house, gathering some belongings. Finally, I heard the front door open and close. Only then did I allow myself to break. I poured another scotch with shaking hands. It was over. My marriage. The life I thought I had. All of it built on lies. But as the shock began to fade, another emotion began to take hold. Determination. Lydia might have betrayed me, but I would be damned if I let her destroy everything I had worked for. I pulled out my phone and dialed Victor's number. Hey, I said when he answered. I need your help. It's time to go to war. The next morning, I woke early and went straight to the office of Evelyn Green, one of the top divorce attorneys in the city. I had called in every favor I had to get an emergency appointment. Evelyn was a sharp-featured woman in her 50s with a reputation for being utterly ruthless in court, perfect. Mr. Hawthorne, she said as I stepped into her office. I understand you're in need of my services. I nodded and took a seat across from her desk. My wife's been cheating on me. I want a divorce, and I want to make damn sure she doesn't take me for everything I'm worth. Evelyn raised an eyebrow slightly. I see. And do you have proof of this infidelity? I placed Frank's envelope on her desk. Everything's in there, photos, videos, phone records. You name it. She opened the envelope and scanned its contents with a practiced eye. This is good, she murmured. Very good. It certainly strengthens our position. So, what do we do now? I asked. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, fixing me with a steady, piercing gaze. Now, Mr. Hawthorne, we prepare for war. Your wife is going to fight. Make no mistake, she'll try to paint herself as the victim, Evelyn said, her tone calm but razor sharp. She'll claim emotional neglect, maybe even abuse. I started to protest, but she held up a hand. I'm not saying it's true, she clarified. I'm saying it's what she'll likely try. We need to be ready for anything. I nodded slowly. Whatever it takes. I'm not letting her walk away with a dime more than she deserves. A small, predatory smile tugged at the corners of Evelyn's lips. I was hoping you'd say that. Now, let's talk strategy. For the next 2 hours, we dissected every inch of my marriage, my financials, and the evidence against Lydia. Evelyn was relentless, leaving no detail unchecked. One last thing, she said as our meeting wrapped up. I need you to start documenting everything. Every interaction with your wife, every expense, every call or message. Anything that could be relevant, record it. Got it, I said, rising to leave. Thanks for your help, Ms. Green. She nodded. We'll be in touch soon. And Mr. Hawthorne, try to keep your cool. Anything you do now could be twisted and used against you in court. I left her office drained but oddly energized. The battle ahead would be long and brutal, but I was ready for it. On the drive back to work, my phone rang. Victor. Hey, I answered. Just checking in, he said. How did it go with the lawyer? I filled him in on the meeting and Evelyn's warning about Lydia's likely tactics. Victor let out a long, low whistle. Sounds like it's going to get nasty. You sure you're ready for this? I don't have a choice, I replied. Lydia made her bed. Now she can lie in it. There was a pause on the line. Look, Adrian, he said finally, I know you're hurting. But is this really the way to go? Maybe you both need time to cool down, maybe talk things out? There's nothing to talk about, I cut him off, heat rising in my voice. She cheated, Victor. She lied to my face for months. I'm done. He sighed. All right, man. I just hate to see it end like this. But I've got your back. No matter what. I softened slightly. Thanks. I'll need all the support I can get. As I hung up, a flicker of doubt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Too reactive? But then I remembered the photos, the lies, the betrayal. No. This was the only path forward. Back at the office, I tried to focus, but my thoughts kept drifting. I built this company from scratch, every late night, every sacrifice, and the thought of Lydia trying to walk away with any part of it made my blood boil. Around lunchtime, my assistant poked her head in. Mr. Hawthorne, your wife is here to see you. I tensed, then forced myself to breathe. Send her in. Lydia entered, pale and drawn. Gone was her polished, confident air. Adrian, she said quietly. We need to talk. I leaned back, my expression unreadable. I think we said everything we needed to say last night. She shook her head, taking a step closer. Please, just hear me out. What I did, it was a terrible mistake. But our marriage doesn't have to end because of one stupid decision. I laughed bitterly. One decision? You lied to me for months, Lydia. That's not a mistake, that's a betrayal. I know, she said, her voice cracking. And I'm so sorry. But I still love you. That hasn't changed. I stared at her, feeling only contempt. Love? You don't know the meaning of the word. Get out of my office. We'll communicate through our lawyers from now on. Adrian, please. Now, I said, my tone like ice. She flinched, then turned and fled the room. I sat in silence, taking deep breaths. I couldn't let her get to me. I had to stay focused. I had to stay sharp. My phone buzzed, a message from Frank. Got more info. Meet tonight. I replied instantly. 8 p.m. The usual place. The rest of the day passed in a blur. By the time I reached the bar, I was exhausted but resolute. Frank was waiting in our corner booth, a grim look on his face. What have you got? He leaned in, voice low. It's worse than we thought. Lydia and Ethan, they're planning something. Big. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I've been monitoring their communications, Frank said. They're talking about framing you, domestic abuse, maybe worse. Something that could ruin you publicly and financially. I clenched my fists under the table. Those idiots. Do you have proof? Frank nodded and slid a USB drive across the table. It's all their texts, emails, recordings. They're getting reckless. They don't think you suspect anything. I pocketed the drive. Keep digging. I want to know everything. As I left the bar, a cold clarity settled over me. Lydia and her boy toy thought they could destroy me. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next morning, I called Evelyn. We need to move fast, I told her. They're planning something big. Understood, she said without hesitation. I'll draw up the divorce papers today. In the meantime, document everything. And Adrian, be careful. Do not give them anything they can use against you. I followed her instructions to the letter. Every text, every call, every word exchanged with Lydia was recorded, documented, dated. She tried to bait me, sweetness one moment, venom the next. But I stayed calm, detached. It all came to a head that Friday. I got home late from work and walked into my living room to find Lydia and Ethan sitting there like they belonged. What the hell is this? I growled. Lydia jumped up, feigning surprise. Adrian, I didn't expect you home so early. Ethan just stopped by to save it. I cut her off. I know exactly what's going on. Ethan stepped forward, protective. Look, man, there's no need for this to get ugly. We're all adults. Adults? I laughed coldly. You call scheming behind my back adult behavior? Planning to frame me? Lydia gasped. Frame you? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, I snarled. I have everything. Your little chats, your big plan to accuse me of abuse. You really thought I was that blind? Ethan's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, I said, pulling out my phone. Want to hear it? I hit play. Their voices filled the room, clear, undeniable. Lydia went pale. Ethan turned red with rage. You've been spying on us. Lydia shrieked. Damn right I have, I replied, voice like ice. And thank God I did. Now get out. Both of you. Or I call the police. Ethan grabbed Lydia's arm. Come on. Let's go. This isn't over, Hawthorne. I watched them leave, my hands shaking, but not from fear. From fury. From resolve. They thought they could destroy me. They were wrong. The following weeks were a blur of legal maneuvering and strategy. Evelyn was relentless, tearing apart every weak point in Lydia's defense. I buried myself in work, refusing to let this war bleed into my company. But Victor wouldn't stop pushing. I'm telling you, Adrian, he said one night over drinks. You should talk to her. Work it out. There's nothing to work out, I said flatly. She made her choice. Now she has to live with the consequences. Victor sighed. I just hate seeing you like this, man. You're not sleeping. You're barely eating. Is it really worth it? I stared at him, suddenly uneasy. Why was he so invested in reconciliation? It's worth everything, I said coldly. I won't let them win. I won't let them take what I built. As I left the bar, a strange feeling crept over me, low, heavy, and unshakable. Something didn't add up. Something was off. That there was more going on than I realized. I needed to be careful. I could not trust anyone, not even my oldest friend. The final blow came a week later. Lydia, desperate and cornered, filed a police report accusing me of domestic abuse. She showed up at the station with bruises, spinning a tale of years filled with control and violence. But I was ready. I had recordings of every interaction we had since I discovered the affair, footage from hidden cameras in our home showing Lydia's attempts to provoke me, and my calm, measured responses. The police, presented with overwhelming evidence of Lydia's deception, had no choice but to drop the investigation. Lydia was charged with filing a false report. As I left the police station, a weight lifted from my shoulders. It was over. I had won. But as I drove home, a new determination settled in my chest. Winning was not enough. Lydia, Ethan, and anyone else involved in their scheme needed to pay. And I was going to make sure they did, no matter what it took. The morning after Lydia's failed attempt to frame me, I strode into my office with renewed purpose. My assistant Sarah hurried after me, a stack of papers in her arms. Mr. Hawthorne, the divorce papers are ready for your signature, she said, placing them on my desk. I picked up a pen, a smile playing across my face. Perfect timing, Sarah, Let's get this over with. As I signed my name, I felt a strange sense of finality. This was it, the end of my marriage and the beginning of my revenge. Have these delivered to Lydia immediately, I instructed, then added, and get Evelyn on the phone. We need to move fast. Within an hour, Evelyn was seated across from me, her expression as fierce as mine. We've got them on the ropes, Adrian, she said. Now it's time to deliver the knockout punch. What's our next move? I leaned forward, my voice cold and sharp. I want to hit them where it hurts most, their money, their reputation. Everything. Evelyn nodded, a predatory glint in her eyes. Leave it to me. By the time we're done, they will not know what hit them. As Evelyn left, my phone rang. It was Frank. Adrian, we've got a problem, he said without preamble. Your wife and that yoga instructor, they're trying to access your business accounts. I felt a surge of anger, quickly replaced by a calm and focused determination. Let them try, Frank. In fact, make it easier for them. I've got an idea. Over the next few days, I set my plan in motion. With the help of my IT team, we created a series of fake accounts, making them look like they held substantial funds. Then we waited. It did not take long. Late one night, I received an alert on my phone. Someone was attempting to transfer a large sum from one of the fake accounts. I smiled and picked up the phone. We've got them, I told Evelyn. It's time to spring the trap. The next morning, I walked into a conference room where Lydia and Ethan were waiting, flanked by their lawyers. Evelyn stood by my side, a thick stack of documents in hand. What's this about, Adrian? Lydia demanded. We're in the middle of divorce proceedings. You can't just summon us. Oh, I think you know exactly what this is about, I cut her off coldly. Your little attempt to embezzle funds from my company last night. Ethan paled, while Lydia's eyes widened in panic. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. I nodded to Evelyn, who began distributing the documents. These are records of your attempted transfer, I explained. Along with a history of your unauthorized access to company accounts. Care to explain? Their lawyers looked stricken, rapidly scanning the documents. Lydia and Ethan exchanged desperate glances. This is all a misunderstanding, Ethan began. Save it, I snapped. Here's what's going to happen. Lydia, you're going to sign these papers, agreeing to a divorce settlement that leaves you with nothing. Ethan, you're going to disappear. If either of you tries to fight this, I'll press charges for attempted embezzlement. Are we clear? Lydia burst into tears while Ethan looked like he might be sick. Their lawyers huddled together, whispering furiously. Finally, Lydia's lawyer spoke. We'll need time to review these documents. You have 1 hour, I said firmly. I suggest you use it wisely. As they filed out of the room, I turned to Evelyn. Make sure everything is airtight. I want this wrapped up by the end of the day. Evelyn nodded, a satisfied smile on her face. Don't worry, Adrian. They don't stand a chance. True to my word, by that evening the divorce was finalized. Lydia left with nothing but the clothes on her back, while Ethan slunk away with his reputation in ruins. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Empty. Something still wasn't right. That feeling was confirmed the next day when I received a call from Frank. Adrian, you're not going to believe this, he said, his voice tense. I've uncovered something big. It's about Victor. My stomach dropped. What about him? He's been in on it from the beginning, Frank said. He's been helping Lydia and Ethan. And there's more, he's been embezzling from your company for years. The world seemed to tilt. Victor, my oldest friend, my business partner. I did not want to believe it. But as Frank laid out the evidence, cold rage replaced disbelief. What do you want to do? Frank asked. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Set up a meeting. Me, Victor, and the board. Don't tell him why. I want to see his face when I confront him. I'm listening. Noah pulled out a thick file. I'm prepared to give you exclusive rights to my story. In exchange, I want your protection from any potential fallout." "Why me?" I asked, suspicion creeping into my voice. "Because you're the wrong party here, Mr. Hawthorne. And because you have the resources and influence to make sure the story sees the light of day." I considered his offer for a long moment. On one condition, the article focuses primarily on Lydia and Victor's betrayal. The rest can be background. Noah hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed." We spent the next few hours going over the details. By the time Noah left, I had a clear picture of just how deep the corruption in our social circle ran, and I knew exactly how I was going to use this information. The next morning, I called an emergency board meeting. As the members filed in, I could see the confusion on their faces. "Gentlemen," I began once everyone was seated, "I've called you here because we have a situation that requires immediate action." I laid out the basics of Noah's investigation, watching his shock and disbelief spread across the room. "Mr. Hawthorne," one of the board members stammered, "are you saying that our company has been unknowingly involved in these activities?" I nodded. "Through Victor's actions, yes. But we have an opportunity here, a chance to get ahead of this story and position ourselves as the victims rather than the perpetrators." Another board member leaned forward. "What do you propose?" "Full transparency," I said. "We cooperate fully with the investigation. We open our books. We clean house. And we use this as a chance to rebrand ourselves as a beacon of corporate integrity." The room erupted in discussion. I let them argue for a few minutes before raising my hand for silence. "I understand your concerns," I said. "But trust me, this is our best move. The story is going to break with or without our cooperation. This way, we control the narrative." Slowly, one by one, the board members nodded their agreement. By the end of the meeting, we had a plan in place. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We hired an independent auditing firm to comb through our records. Any employee remotely connected to Victor's schemes was terminated. We implemented new transparency policies and strict ethical guidelines. And through it all, I worked closely with Noah, shaping the story that would soon rock the city to its core. The day the article was published, I braced myself for the fallout. But I needn't have worried. The public reaction was overwhelmingly in our favor. My phone rang nonstop with calls from clients and business partners, all expressing their support and admiration for how we handled the crisis. Our stock price, which had taken an initial hit, rebounded stronger than ever. As for Lydia and Victor, the backlash was swift and merciless. They became pariahs overnight, shunned by the very social circles they had once dominated. I was in my office reviewing the latest round of positive press when my assistant buzzed me. "Mr. Hawthorne, there's a woman here to see you. She says she's your sister." I froze. Isabella. I hadn't seen or spoken to her in years. "Send her in," I said after a moment's hesitation. The door opened and there she was, Isabella. Older, harder, but unmistakably my little sister. "Hello, Adrian," she said, her voice cool. "It's been a while." I stood slowly. "Isabella, what are you doing here?" She stepped farther into the room, her eyes sweeping over the polished decor of my office. "I saw the article. Quite a story. Is that why you're here?" I asked. "To gloat at the family scandal?" Isabella's eyes flashed. "I'm here because Lydia reached out to me. She's desperate, Adrian. She has nowhere else to turn." I laughed bitterly. "And you thought I'd what, welcome her back with open arms?" "Of course not," Isabella snapped. "I came to warn you. She's not done. Adrian, she's planning something." I sat down, suddenly tired. "Let her try. I've beaten her at every turn so far." "You don't understand," she insisted. "I've known about her affair with Victor for months." I kept quiet, hoping. "Hoping what?" I demanded. "Hoping it would lead to Victor's downfall," she admitted. "I have my own score to settle with him." I stared at her, a new wave of betrayal crashing over me. "You knew all this time and said nothing?" She looked down, ashamed. "I was wrong. I see that now. But Adrian, there's more to this story than you know. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. Meeting now. Your office. It's time for the truth. I showed it to Isabella. Her face paled. It's Lydia, she said. She's on her way here. Good, I replied, standing. It's time to end this once and for all. Within minutes, Lydia burst into my office with Victor trailing behind. Both looked haggard and desperate. Adrian, Lydia began, but I cut her off. Save it, I snapped. I don't want to hear any more of your lies. It's not lies, Victor interjected. There's something you need to know. Isabella stepped forward. Let them speak, Adrian. I think we all need to hear this. I looked at the three of them, people who had betrayed me so deeply. Part of me wanted to throw them out immediately. But another part, the part that craved answers, kept me rooted in place. Fine, I said coldly. Talk.